So if you could just say your name and your major.
Sure. I'm Sarah Backus, and I am an acting major.
My name is Brandon Fuller, and I am majoring in acting. I'm having when she was 18. My dad was 27. My dad's a pharmacist. My mom's been unemployed for like most of it. I used to live in a trailer, and in the backyard there was two trees, and there was like a little stage area, and then like grass would hang over it. And I would get like a little fake guitar, and I would like get my parents to like come outside. I'd put out like chairs. I'm like 5, put out chairs for them, and I would just like sing on my fake little microphone and play on my guitar, and I'd like pretend to be like fighting ninjas on stage.
I love being around animals. I love being around my family members. At this point in my major, it's hard to have a hobby when you're so ingrained in everything. So. I was brought up in a military family, so I've moved around a ton. I've lived in like 9 different states, a bunch of different cities. So having that kind of very spontaneous, unpredictable home life really brought my core family together. I think because my dad was deployed so much, the idea of a strong female character in my family was very prevalent because my mom, I did have to do a lot of very adult, very mature things like taking care of my brother when I was like 6 or 7. So I really appreciated that about my upbringing. Even though my parents are from the military, they're very hippy-dippy. So like I was brought up in a very compassionate, very loving home, but with that mentality of strength in numbers and everything because of that. I think my parents being so in love with the arts and being so supportive of the arts and really instilled a positive appreciation of the arts, which is why I love, obviously went into acting and stuff.
My parents got divorced when I was in 5th grade. I was an only child until I was 16, and now I have 2 little brothers. One's 2, one's 2.5. They always taught me to keep an open mind, though, not to judge anybody. That even though I think differently, doesn't necessarily mean that my way is the right way. It's just different. Got into sports in 8th grade. Played football until my sophomore year. Wrestled from my 9th to my 11th year. My buddy, who's now my best friend, Jordan Briggs. I remember this distinctly. I was coming out of wrestling practice. It was an early day. And I was like, hey, what are you guys here? They were like, oh, we're here. Just got done with play practice. I was like, oh, cool, I just got done doing wrestling practice. And I told them, I used to do little performances, and I was in plays in elementary school, and they were like, you should totally audition. There's a new play coming out. It's Peter Pan. And I was like, I really want to. Went Saturday, auditioned, got the role of the Indian chief, and I did that, and I loved it. I was like, this is what I want to do. JJ was like, you guys should audition for Shenandoah. I was like, okay, and at first I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I knew if I auditioned for an art school, especially one I was really excited for, it would take a lot of talking to my dad. I'm not gonna wrestle anymore. So, my dad had the talk with me. I was 10. And he's like, what are the odds of you being an actor? You should go in the medical field. Blah blah blah. More. This is what I want to do. I was going to fight my dad and be like, look, Dad, I'm doing this. I'm not going to be in the world forever. I'm not going to be here more than once.
Do you think that you're a self-aware person?
No. I mean, I think I'm getting better. I don't think any of us are truly self-aware. I think I can get better at that in that aspect of my life. I need to check in more with how I affect others sometimes. So yeah, I think I'm not as much as I thought I was this time last year. So.
And how do you do that? How do you go about checking in with yourself? What do you do?
Giving myself a break when I need it. Yeah, but I think if you choose to have more experience as you age, then that's your choice. Just like ignorance is a choice. I think you can choose to be self-aware or choose to, because I don't think you can just be self-aware. I think it's totally a choice to look internally and decide to confront things about yourself. And I don't think I would have the courage without that kind of push from the adults in my life to do that. I think just honesty is the most important thing when it comes to seeking self-awareness. And honesty does start with yourself, I think. Honesty does start with being honest with yourself about your flaws, or being honest with yourself about your strengths. Because if you're not honest internally, I feel like you can't present your authentic self to other people, you know? Right now, I think today, because I think it changes every day, I like to think of myself as open and hardworking right now. Because, like, I feel like personalities can change all the time, but the core of who you are as a human is always the same. And I've always prided myself on always working hard and being as open-minded as I possibly could because of my upbringing and stuff.
I think I have a big heart. I think that's what I was told a lot. I think I'm funny. This feels really weird. I do not like this. I'm not a big fan of like I try to stay like as humble. So it feels weird, but like I guess from things that I've self-observed or whatever, where I was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, is definitely a lot different than I am now. I try to remain level-headed and unjudgmental of anything. I try to go in without an assumption. Life is a very, very valuable thing, and it's very short. So I do my best to make sure it doesn't slip out from underneath me. So I'll go on walks and I try to center myself, and I feel like walking around and observing where I'm at and what I'm doing helps with that. Recognize yourself. And you're like when I was 10, I would lay in bed sometimes. It would scare the mess out of me. And it'd be like, I'm alive. I'm here. This is real. That's real. My bed's real. My blanket's real. And one day I'm not going to experience this. You know what I mean? I used to be 5. Well, like when I was 10, I was thinking this. I used to be 5. Now I'm 10. And you gotta realize that you weren't always a part of this world. We're all given a little slither of it to do as much as you can with it. Because there's been millions of years before me. There's going to be millions of years after me. I just got to do the most I can with this little slither. Life is not always going to be going grand. But it's not always going to be terrible. And, some people have a terrible life, as a child or grown up. And some lives are going to be rougher than others. But it's not always just going to be negative after negative after negative. There's going to be positives and positives. And that's right. There are some people who just give, and give. And I used to be that type of kid who was I always worried about other people's feelings and what other people did. And make sure I could help. But at some point you gotta it's okay to be a little selfish. You gotta be a little selfish in order to truly get to that point, you know what I mean? Of where you want to be at. I'm happy and confident with myself. I like who I am. I like being unjudgmental.
Do you feel comfortable inside your own head, in your own body?
There's no other person on this earth that I'd rather be.